How's it going everyone, Jimmy here, and today I want to teach you guys how to properly play the Guile matchup as Ryu. This video has been requested a lot on my Zangief matchup analysis video, and I can totally see why. This is one of those matchups that every Ryu struggles with, and there are really good reasons why that's the case. Ryu heavily loses the ground game to Guile, so you can't really play a fireball game against him. You will definitely lose if you try that. So instead, what you have to do is you have to constantly push forward. You push forward and you try to get some jump-ins. This sounds like a bad idea, and it kind of is because it leads to some consistency issues. You won't be getting a lot of jump-ins against strong players anyways, and if you're dependent on a jump-in to win a match, then that's not a really clean way to win, and that's the problem in this matchup, and this is why people have so many issues beating Guile players. There is no good way to beat him, unfortunately, with Ryu. You're kind of stuck with luck, but keep in mind, you also, you can use your brain. If you see a pattern for sonic booms, you can abuse that, you can get the jump-ins, so the Guile player is constantly forced to change patterns for the sonic boom. So let's take a look at how this matchup plays out in an actual match. I'll be commenting on some key moments along the way. So I got a good jump in right at the start of the game, which is really nice, but unfortunately in the wake up situation I messed up. I was expecting a late crouch tech from my opponent, which actually happened, but I mistimed my delayed crouching light kick, so I got grabbed out of it. If you don't know what delayed crouch tech is, I highly recommend you check out the YouTube card in the upper right corner of this video to see my tutorial on that. So I'm cornered now, which is the worst spot to be in against Guile, but pay attention to how I reverse the situation now. So let's back up a bit to see exactly what happened here. I wake up and I start blocking a couple of attacks, and after blocking the heart punch, this is the first moment there's a decision to make here. So this is a common spot for a Guile player to throw a sonic boom, and because of that it's also a really common spot to jump in as Ryu. So you have to make a decision here, and I decide my opponent is going to be looking for a jump in this spot. So what do? I start walking forward, and this is really crucial. It really shows how much knowledge do you have about the anti-air game in Street Fighter V. The Guile player is going to be looking for a jump in at a very narrow time frame. And when that time frame passes, he's going to be focused more on the ground game again. So my opponent's jump-in expectations were not met, so the next thing he does when switching back to the ground game is throw Sonic Boom, and that's exactly when I jump in. So I get away with this jump-in, this cross-up attempt, specifically because I'm messing with his expectations. So now I have corner control, and I want you to pay attention to how I deal with this situation because it's the best spot to be in this matchup. Actually in any matchup, but specifically against Guile, it's really important to understand the corner situation is the only spot Guile players are going to be worried about. As a result, you want to have a mix of applying pressure and waiting for jump-in attempts in order to make sure your opponent can't escape the corner. And keep in mind, you won't be able to prevent the jump out every single time, but whenever it does happen, you really want to make sure to anti-air at the very least and apply a little bit of pressure even if they jump out of the corner. So here's a good example of me making a mistake. I'm trying to finish off my opponent without spending any meter because I thought it was gonna barely kill, but I'm wrong and I'm gonna regret that decision later on, as you'll see. So that's the thing about Street Fighter V. If you can make sure to kill off your opponent with meter, you always do that. There's no question about that. Because in Street Fighter V, it's way too easy to make a comeback. So if you can make sure to finish off your opponent, you finish off your opponent, whatever it takes. Here's an interesting situation. I'm blocking a reverse spin kick, which is -2 on block, so it should be my turn to press a button afterwards, but if my opponent knows that I know it's my turn, then they can try to reverse the situation with an EX flash kick, and that's what happens here. So this concludes the first round of this match. From now on there's going to be fewer comments from me, but pay attention to the rest of the match and you'll notice that a lot of what I've already discussed is going to repeat itself throughout the next 2 rounds. It's interesting to note that I'm throwing fireballs here, even though I said earlier you shouldn't be doing that because you can't win the zoning game with Ryu's fireballs, and that's still true, you really can't win the zoning game, but those fireballs aren't there to zone. There are a couple of reasons why you wanna throw out a fireball every now and then. First of all, you want to do that because you want to stay unpredictable. It's really difficult to deal with a player that keeps changing the moves that he's using. Secondly, you want to discourage the Guile from using normals that are used to prevent you from walking in on him. And the last thing the fireball helps with is encouraging the Guile player to try to start a zoning game with a sonic boom, essentially giving you more chances to get a jump in attack. So let's back up a bit to take a look at that really weird interaction, and the first thing that you might notice is how I'm whiffing 2 crouching fierce attacks, and if you pay attention to my inputs, I'm actually buffering those 2 fierce attacks into a heavy tatsu. So the idea behind that is I'm expecting the Guile player to do a crouching medium kick, and I'm standing at a range where my crouching fierce would whiff punish that. And yeah, I'm doing a heavy tatsu as a buffer, so I'd automatically get that in case I do get the whiff punish. It's really interesting to note that this flash kick might seem incredibly random and totally out of place, but honestly, it's a pretty common occurrence in this state of any match in Street Fighter V. So my opponent is up 1 round already, and this is a good example of a situation where you have a lot to gain in case you do something random and very little to lose. My opponent is already in a bad spot in this round, so I have him in the corner, he's almost stunned, so what he's trying to do here, he's trying to steal the round away from me by taking a risk, and once again, like, if that flash kick hits, he's gonna gain a lot of ground and a potential comeback from there. But if he's wrong, if I block the flash kick, then as I said, he was already in a bad spot. He's giving up the round, but he was already losing the round to begin with, so it's not that big a deal. He's just gonna go into the 3rd round with all of his resources, and he's gonna start from there again. So this concludes the 2nd round of this match, and for the 3rd round I want you to pay attention to how I apply corner pressure against this Guile. Most of the last round is going to happen in the corner, and I want you to pay attention to how inactive I am, but still, like, I'm losing quite a bit of life doing that, but I gain a lot of control, and this is really important. So as I said earlier, you can't prevent the Guile player from jumping out of the corner at all times. It is gonna happen, but whenever it does happen, you need to be ready and at the very least anti-air him for that. And this is a great example of a technique called the cross-cut DP. It basically enables you to get consistent Shoryuken attempts against cross-ups, and if you didn't know about this technique, I highly recommend you check out my tutorial on that topic. So that last interaction is a very good example of how mind games work once again. my opponent does a V-trigger activation, which is supposed to trick me into believing a sonic boom is coming next, because that's usually what happens. And instead, I'm aware of that, so what I do is I walk forward. Once again, I'm basically walking into a sonic boom because I know my opponent wants to be ready for an anti-air. So I give him just enough time before I do a crouching medium kick, because like once my opponent is aware, oh damn, he's walking forward, he's not jumping at all, he's gonna try to reposition himself because all of a sudden he has bad spacing against me because I'm in his face. So what's gonna happen is he's gonna try to walk backwards next, and that's exactly when I clip him with a crouching medium kick. So guys, that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. So thanks a lot for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon.